What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Dave Savage here, and today I'm interviewing Kevin Carlson. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
It's going good, man. I'm looking forward to this interview. You know, I feel like I know a lot of the Mortgage Coach loan officers that do over 1,000 TCAs. But when I was, talking to your, the leader of your company, Chris Vinson, recently, he told me about you, and I was like, wait, there's a dude that's doing I think you've done over 1,400 total cost analysis. And how many loans did you close last month?
40.
40 loans. I go, I got to get to know this guy. I gotta interview him. So congrats on the success, my friend.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's been good. And honestly, I have a lot of it to attribute to Mortgage Coach. It really has been a game changer for the way that I do business. I went to it about 5 years ago. I started every single time doing a total cost analysis or a rent versus own analysis. I figure I kind of owe it to my client to have them not walk out the door with just a sheet of paper and some chicken scratchings on it. I want something that's more dynamic, something that's a better presentational tool, and people rave about this. So it's been a real game changer for me.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I would love to know, 5 years ago when you started using Mortgage Coach, one, what was your production like? And two, what was your why then? You have your why, you use it every day today, but why'd you start using it 5 years ago? I'd love to know.
Well, good question. So two reasons. First of all, I figure the interview that Mortgage Coach kind of channels you into is, to me, a perfect abbreviated 5-minute interview. You can get the major goals down. You can talk about what they're looking for, where they're at now, and really be able to get enough information where you get to know them. As opposed to kind of off-roading, so we all started in the mortgage business where, you sit in with a person and then they, a lot of times throw you into the deep end of the pool. At least that was my experience. And that's not necessarily best. I'm a decent conversationalist, but I really like to have the guidance of, I'm following a bit of a script here and I'm asking all the right questions. As far as what I was like before, it was, I was a solid 5 to 10 loan guy and per month, which is, making a decent living. It all was working out all right, but I never felt like I was, I didn't have that anchor of my consistency. It's kind of all over the board. I felt like every time I was doing a loan, I was reinventing the wheel. And this was able to give me a lot of consistency where I'm first of all, being able to, apply some math to the whole thing. So we're not just like, don't you want to get your rate down from this to that? And they kind of shake their heads. Well, it sounds good, but what does that really mean to me? This, we're able to actually do the math for them. And it was a game changer, I guess. So
awesome. So you were looking for something you could do consistently with your clients that was an elevated conversation. And that's what brought you to Mortgage Coach 5 years ago. And then today, you've done 1,000, over 1,400 TCAs. You did 40 loans last month. Why do you keep doing it for every client? What's the why every client gets it today?
Yeah, so number one, people love it. I'll give you an example. I hate buying cars as a general rule. I hate sitting across the table from somebody who has a pen in their hand and they're trying to get me to sign something, and I know they've done it 1,000 times and I've done it 5 times in my life. I just don't like that power dynamic, And so to me, Mortgage Coach turns that whole power dynamic on its head. I'm able to give them all the information they're going to need. And I can say, click that more info button in the summary section. It'll tell you all the back screens. So I'm completely naked. You can see everything I'm talking about, all the back screens as far as what the closing costs are. I'm not hiding anything. And they can look at that as often as they want in their living room, or at their kitchen table, without having, the pressure of me doing this. And that power dynamic to me is very disarming, for a consumer. And people like that. And I think we're able to enter into the relationship from a standpoint of trust and being an advisor as opposed to being a salesy.
I like that. My takeaway from what you just said is you like it because it turns transparency into a competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
That sounds like your why today. You're doing it because it's giving, the power of transparency to the customer versus, you owning it and controlling it. I like that a lot, actually. And then that's interesting. As a CEO of Mortgage Coach, my goal is always to, help our loan officers use Mortgage Coach more often. And I've heard the objection that, for some families, it's not for others. It's for the affluent, not for the others. You know, here you are in, you know, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and would you support the fact that it's for everybody? You
Absolutely.
You might have the conversation different
Sure.
with some people, like you go in more details with others, but every family wants a total cost analysis. How would you give me, you know, an idea of how you might have different nuances as to how you present it and talk about it with different families?
Okay, yeah, sure. So a perfect example would be if I'm working with somebody who's a first-time home buyer, maybe they're renting right now, and we'll look in and we'll say, all right, you know, one of the things I like to ask is, give me your happy number and give me your max number. Meaning, from a budget standpoint, where do you want to be from a payment standpoint? So I don't bury you in a payment. I always tell people 30 years is a long time for you to hate me. I can't deal with that kind of bad karma. So, you know, let's start with where you want to be. And I write those numbers down. And what they just told me is my lower end and my top end of my rent versus own analysis. If they say I want to be between $1,000 and $1,200 per month, then I'm going to do one at $1,000 per month, one at $1,100 a month, one at $1,200 a month, and let that kind of flow from that. Okay, and I'll show you an example of that one here in a minute.
But get that ready. Get that ready. Like let's unpack that, but keep going with the high level sales training. And I hope folks got that script. You know, that's one thing I've learned, that the best loan officers ask the best questions. They listen. And then they teach something that hadn't been considered, and they provide transparency through an educational experience. So, guys, I hope you got that script. So keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So, you want me to share the screen now to show what we're talking about in the background, or?
Well, but before you do that, so guys, let's almost do like a virtual site visit right now. First of all, first-time home buyer, what percentage of the time are they coming into your office versus over the phone and internet?
We try to get everyone in who's in the market, who's here in town. We try to get them in 100% of the time. Like if they're not moving here from Florida, which I'm not sure why you'd move here from Florida to South Dakota, but I do have somebody right now moving to South Dakota from Florida for some unknown reason. Anyway,
job.
It's exactly what it was. It was a job.
Job or love. Love.
Exactly.
I met him or her.
Right. So we try to get everybody in the office if possible. Yeah. So it's 90%.
Okay. So they're in the office. Real quick, what's your scripting? If you're getting 90% of your people in your office, what are you saying that's getting 90% of the people in your office? I'd love to know.
Sure. Well, we what we did is we took the script, or what the normal script would be for a mortgage coach ask, and we made that our goal sheet. So when I've got my assistants that will basically call up at the beginning, we're having that first conversation with the new lead, say, okay, we've got to get some of your basic information down. They're going to take a full loan application. They're going to set up an appointment to meet with me, which is great. And then they will email me a goal sheet, and it basically has all the questions to the mortgage coach. So I can take that and start plugging in the numbers. So when they arrive, it's already done. If that helps. So
they come into your office, they arrive. Is the mortgage coach already set up? Like, has that already been created?
Yep.
If so, by you or an assistant? What's your workflow?
A little bit of both. They'll start it, I'll finish it, and then when they get here, we'll fine tune it.
Are you using the new team version of Mortgage Coach yet?
No.
Did you know? You did? Make a note.
I did not even know that existed. So, you got me.
So as we're talking about this, if I notice opportunities, I'll let you know.
Please do. Thank you.
That's only available in our Enterprise Edition. Just because, there's different permissions, but if you work for a company that has the Enterprise Edition of Mortgage Coach, ask about the Team Edition. It's pretty sweet. Helps you collaborate better as a team.
Absolutely.
And help. At the end of the day, it saves you time. Okay, so right now you and your team are working together. The person comes in. I'm going to assume you start off with just personal connection and getting to know their hopes, dreams, and goals. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, we go through a little bit of rapport building at the beginning, see what they're at, and then I'll always start the same way. I say, for this first appointment, I want to do 3 things. First thing I want to do is I want to get any questions that you have out there and answered as best we can. Secondly, I want to go through the numbers and make sure we're on the same page with the numbers. And I've got a high-powered analytical tool that I use. That's how I kind of set you up. I have a high-powered analytical tool that I use that will kind of go through all of your different price points to give you an idea of what you should be looking at from a budget standpoint. And then lastly, I want to kind of let you know what to expect moving forward. That's how I start every appointment. Yeah.
So notice, Mortgage Coach members, we are the numbers, part of that three-prong value point. And then Mortgage Coach product team, if you're watching this, we like being called a high-powered analytical tool, so we like that.
Right.
If we're not being called Mortgage Coach, we'll be called that any day of the week. So now, where in the conversation with the client, first-time home buyer, do you actually start showing the total cost analysis or the rent versus own that you're going to pull up? Where does that fit within the sales experience?
Sure. So we go through questions, and the first thing, just a little tip, you always ask, first of all, if I have a couple here especially, I'll say, are there any questions that I can answer for you? And one person will turn to the other one every single time, and the person that they turn to is the person that you want to be addressing from that point forward. They're actually the decision maker. Anyway, so we get the questions answered as best we can, and then as soon as we get that out there, then we kind of step into what we talked about earlier, which is I ask, give me your happy number from a budget standpoint. Give me your, we do some qualifying things. Are you in the military at all? Are you looking for a rural property? Kind of get an idea if they're looking at FHA and how's your credit, that sort of a thing. But generally we have an idea when they even arrive, kind of which direction we're going to go with them. And I'll say, okay, give me your happy number and your max number that we talked about. And I say, okay, and by happy number, I mean, this would be like in the pocket of where you want to be from a budget standpoint. And max, this is really your squealing uncle at that point. And then I will plug that in as my low and high end of my Mortgage Coach.
Got it. And then how do you show that? Do you have two screens? Do you have what are they looking at and how are they seeing it?
So I have one screen that I look at that I face, and then I've got a kind of a mirror screen that faces them. And so just one cable. I got it. This will date me, but I got it at Radio Shack back in the day, or back when Radio Shacks were a thing.
It dated you.
I know. Sorry, guys. Anyways, but everything that I could, again, that's part of that whole transparency, that we're trying to get across to people is I want everything that I see, I want them to be able to see. You know what I mean?
Transparency is your advantage. Okay, let's pull up the TCA. And now you called it generically within the sales experience, my high-powered analytical tool. What do you call it for them? How do you refer to it? I mean, do you call it a total cost analysis? What do you call it? Rent versus own?
I just call it.
What's the language?
I don't refer to it as anything other than this tool. And people, I just call it an analysis. Is all I say.
Okay. And anything else you say to position it when you just think of your scripting, you're getting ready to show them the numbers. Is there anything else you're saying to pre-frame what you're going to show them? Just trying to get the sales strategy out of you.
Right on. Not really. I mean, honestly, I kind of jump into, okay, so this is where this is the areas of that you should be looking at. One other thing I will say is that I say I'm a little old-fashioned. The way I do my pre-qualification letter is that I will make it property specific. And I do that for two reasons. First of all, I don't want you to, I want to give you just a blanket letter that says you're pre-qualified up to, 300,000 or whatever it is. Because we don't want to tip our hand to the seller, I guess is my point. If you're offering 225 and it says you go up to 300, they think you're made of money. And we don't want to necessarily do that to the seller. The other thing is, and this is of course my secret motive, is I just want to have a conversation with you. Before you pull the trigger on something, before you make a move, I want you to call me. I'm going to plug in the exact interest rates of the day. I'm going to go through exactly what those taxes are for that particular property, so you really know what you're getting into before you pull the trigger on something. So what I'm able to do then is, when we do those three different price points, I'll do kind of the happy number, the medium number, and the max number. And there's the fourth slot. I leave the fourth slot as my revolving door. I leave the fourth slot to make it a property-specific analysis. And what that does is two huge things. First of all, it cuts down the phone calls of every 5 minutes to say, what about this property? What about this property? What about this property? I can just say, hey, look, as a general idea, when you're out there looking, you can kind of triangulate. If it's between 250 and 300, you can see it'll be between this payment and that payment, if that makes sense. And then it cuts down the phone calls, but we still have that extra conversation at the end. They're able to go in very confidently to that offer when they go to make it, so they know exactly what those numbers look like. Okay,
I got to make 3 points while you're pulling up the screen. So pull up the screen. So one, it reminded me of the interview I did with Sheila Gifford, and Sheila was the one who introduced me to Chris. She referred me to Chris, and we've rolled out Mortgage Coach at Plains Commerce Bank. But she talked about that, how hey, we want to make the pre-qual letter specific to the property so that the client keeps coming back to you. If you did not watch that interview with Sheila Gifford, there'll be a link down below. I think it will likely win, if not my top interview for 2019, one of the top 3 interviews. So
yeah,
did you check that out, by the way?
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Did you see that interview?
No, I haven't, but I've met her before, and I've had the pleasure of being in some of her classes before, and she's just top person. So she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's an amazing professional, guys. So check that out. And then I just want everybody to connect the dots that he's not like overplaying the technology. It's like it's just there's like genius in the simplicity. You know, I'm asking questions, and Mortgage Coach isn't about the technology, it's about the transparency, and it's about the education of your personalized experience. And he's just making it, just so obvious. So let's try to, I like to keep these, as close to 20 minutes as possible. Mm-hmm. So we got a few more minutes here, but why don't you walk us through this total cost analysis and give us a feel for what it would be like if we were a consumer on the other side of this.
Gotcha. Well, this particular one is not a total cost analysis. It's a rent versus own. I can show you a total cost analysis.
Sorry. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, by the way, everything is a total cost analysis because it's showing the cost over time. Because here's the deal, guys. Where you start to leave your competition in the dust is they're showing payment, closing cost, and rate, and you're showing cost over different windows of time. And so that's, I call it total cost selling. It's basically transparency selling. So walk us through this rent versus own.
Okay, so this is kind of the one I just teed up here a few minutes ago. And so this particular person had asked what the rent was. It's $1,200 a month. And then I said, all right, well, give me your happy number and your max number. This particular person said $1,100 a month for a happy number and about $1,350 for a max number. So it's exactly what we put in. $1,100 a month on the down side of things, the bottom side of things, about $1,350 a month on the top end of things, and the middle was $1,215 a month. Showed them exactly what the kind of cash to close we would look at. I think we looked at an FHA loan for this one. Yeah. And then I just kind of walk them through the whole thing. We talk about, I do leave the net monthly payments out of there, but we talk about like we just discussed, those 3 different pillars. And then I email this whole thing out to them so they can refer back to it. I do show them the more info tab that takes you to those back screens that'll look at, kind of what goes into the payments so that they can refer back to that, as well as the closing costs.
Before you leave that screen, do you ever show like a prepayment in that reinvestment option where, hey, what if you prepaid a mortgage or you invest in an offset account? Do you ever use that feature?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep, I use not usually for these. Again, first-time home buyers, I kind of, we are, kind of give them enough. And enough is usually just comparing to the rent to the own. If they're really financially savvy and really want to get into it, we'll go off-road and they're all day long. But to me, that's kind of a different level of customer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I hope you guys got that takeaway. Like, too much information is just as bad to advice and education is too little information. So don't fire hose. Do you use that feature more often with a refi where you're saying, hey, let's refi, lower your payment and take that payment savings and do like another option where you prepay it? Is that
absolutely, yeah,
pretty common move for you?
Absolutely, yep. And to me, that's I always say, now this is the jaw dropper. If you kind of pick me up and drag me to the left side of the screen, scroll down to the very bottom, that's really what I want to show you, because that's where it really shows the total amount of interest you're going to save over the life of the loan.
Love that. What'd you call that again? The jaw?
The jaw dropper. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's
all right. Yeah. And that's your script with the client. So hey, let me show you the jaw dropper. Yeah. And guys, that's the star moment. When he's doing that, he's positioning it. His language is positioning it, and now he's showing them something they'll never forget. Like when someone sees that, oh, I lowered my payment by $300. I prepaid it. I saved X in interest. They will never forget that. Like you will now have created an experience for them that they won't forget. Right. All right. So what else on this? What else on this one?
Yeah, honestly, that's as detailed as I get with this one. I do send them a follow-up email as soon as they leave the office. I say, this is that analysis that we sent out. Let me know if you find a property that's a contender, or let me know. I'll plug it in and make it very specific. And I'll let you know how everything goes. Is they always have their happy number and their max number. And of course, what you can pre-qualified for is usually the max plus. So that's good that I think most people, a lot of loan officers will just say, oh, you can look up to this amount. and they don't go further into actually understanding if they go up to that amount, they're gonna be mad at you for the entire length of the loan they have the length of time they have the loan. Anyway, what usually happens is you got the happy number and the max number, and they always wind up being just a little bit above the max number, which is fine because we can usually get them pre-qualified or pre-approved for more than that anyway. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast. They come back and say, well, what if we pushed our budget a little bit? And we can also have a conversation with our real estate agents as we're going through, because I will CC the realtors on this as well.
Make note of that, everybody. So hit the X right there. I want to notice guys in the left-hand corner, he's got his photo, personal branding. In the right-hand corner, he's got his brand of his company. So, branding the mothership, branding himself, and you've got advice. How often are you adding a video to this?
100% of the time.
And when do you add that, and why do you add that?
I add it as soon as they leave the office. If it's the case of a purchase like this. And, I do it just because it adds a little bit of personality, as we move forward and start continually competing against the robots of the world, the Rocket Mortgages and the Quicken Loans and that sort of a thing. We are humans, and if everyone wants the ease of a technological type of interaction, if we're just going that direction, then we're not going to win against those things, because they're able to do that. They got bigger budgets than we'll ever have. But we can actually, give better advice, and we can have this personal contact with each other. Yeah, sure, it's through a video camera, but still, it's personal. You can infuse your personality, and you can gain a level of rapport and trust just by adding a video to it. I think it's it's great. It's great.
Okay, cool. So I want to put a few things in context and pull up my screen real quick. You are clearly a black belt. When we talked, I went through, just to be a blue belt in mortgage coach, just a reminder to anyone who's watching this and hasn't watched some of the interviews on this, is that you need to be great at not just delivering rate, payment, and cash to close, but cost over time and prepayment strategies when it makes sense. It's like you're a golfer. You don't use every club on every hole. You don't use every strategy with everyone. But you'll notice with a rep versus own, he's using the cost over time. He's not doing the prepay. And he knows, like, when am I going to add a video? Because everybody comes to the office. I'm going to add the video after they leave. And who knows, there may be a time over a weekend where you don't like your background or you're not in a good spot and you use audio. Do you ever use the feature where they're not in your office, but you're using the live experience where whatever you touch moves on their side? Is that?
I have not, but I've that's where I got to get to my second degree black belt, I guess, of getting up there. So no, because you're getting so many people in your office. This feature right here would be like the next best thing to having someone in your office. Right.
When to drive an omni-channel experience, and that's like online, in person, and always delivering options. So a couple last questions before we wrap up our interview here. As far as these options on the black belt, rent versus own, when we were doing our prep, was one of your most common strategies. What would you say your next, number 2, number 3 is?
Definitely.
All these options.
Well, what I always call it just the total cost analysis, but the way I do it, is it on here?
Yeah, maybe we need to add another one. What's missing?
Well, here's how I frame things. If I'm going to get beat, or when I used to get beat, I'll say it like that, by competitors, it was either because of rate or cost, right? I mean, as a general rule, unless they don't like fat bald guys, it was rate or cost. One of those two is going to knock me out of the window. So we made it very simple. I'm the lowest rate and the lowest cost every time. And so when I'm reviewing or kind of going through the different loan options, I will literally say fixed 30 low rate, fixed 30, and fixed 30 low cost. And the fixed 30 low rate is going to be, maybe we're buying it down to the next level. And so I can compete with the online lenders and they stop shopping there. Or if they're really, hyper focused on cost, great. I'm the lowest cost too. It's just a little bit higher interest rate. We talk about how rates and costs are on either end of a teeter-totter. And really, then again, we're talking about actual numbers. Well, how long are you going to be in the house? How long are you going to have this loan? What's your time frame going to be? And then I can actually give them tangible advice as far as what's going to be the best option for them.
So guys, everybody listen to that. Those would be strategies with under pre-approval options. And I've done a lot of interviews on that. So if you're watching this, this is in our mortgage strategy interview series. And there are a number of strategies. I think the one with Jeremy Forcier, where he always does it. So he's like purchase options, and he always gives 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
And if he feels like an online competitor or a big bank is the competition, he always puts in, a low rate, like 2 points-ish. He puts a middle and a high. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm putting in options, and it's kind of like low rate, low cost. You pick the strategy, and when they pick the strategy, they pick the loan officer.
Right.
So and also if you're in our Facebook group, Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind, and you want a recommendation to another interview where I cover that, check it out. Just comment down below, and we'll do that. So one last question before we wrap this up, and I can tell right now this will not be our last interview, so I'm looking forward to another. Maybe like next time we'll do a pure TCA, and maybe we'll do purchase options.
Great.
And refi. Like we'll do a refi and purchase options.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I'm really trying to help mortgage coach community with is, okay, you're this mortgage advisor, you're this black belt in advice, borrowers come in and you own it. How do you turn that into marketing? And right now I'm studying Story Brand by Donald Miller, and I recently interviewed him, and I'm trying to get better at marketing myself, like the words I use, the language, the marketing. How do you position yourself with realtors? How do you take the fact that you're this black belt ninja and market that? What are you doing? How are you doing that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, for one thing, I've got, other than the people that work here that I've turned on to Mortgage Coach, no one else is doing this. So when you're able to actually show this, and every time I've shown this technology to a real estate agent, they're blown away. They love it. They all love it. And the clients love it. The real estate agents love it. And what we're all, of course, after here is raving fans. We really want to make sure that what we're delivering is service and advice at a level where not only are they going to be happy, and you can deliver your product, but it's that next level of being able to deliver it at such a high value that they're going to send all their friends to you. And I always tell people, I say, I'm greedy. I just think long term. I don't want to rip you off, and just get one transaction. I want to treat you exceptionally well so that I can work with all your friends and all your family. And I guess that is one of the propositions that this helps create. If I'm trying to pitch myself to a real estate agent to work with me, well, if they know that I am doing things like this, that's going to generate more business for not just me, but for them, because if it comes off of that branch, it goes back to that branch, if that makes sense. Right. Then I come out with a competitive advantage to work with that agent and usually get that relationship.
So my takeaway from what I heard is all of his realtors have seen it, and they've seen it in an intentional, educational way. And I hear that all the time. The realtor is CC'd, and I heard you say that earlier.
Yes.
It's not uncommon that I'll CC the realtor on the total cost analysis. So that, by the way, why do you add the video? Because now the realtor is seeing you deliver this next level experience using video. Realtors like that.
Absolutely.
I can't remember what you used, the uncle, or let's face it, the relative that's helping with the down payment that might need to be a co-signer. They're seeing it. The buddy at work that's the real estate guru that wants them to use his lender.
My favorite thing is when I send off a total cost analysis. See if I got any on my phone right now. No, not yet. Oh yeah, I do. One right there. It was, it's been looked at. I love it when I send it off and then I get like zzz, zzz, zzz. I know that they send it off to 20 of their buddies, and it's kind of marketing for me out there, and that's just, to me, it's a very efficient way to leverage that.
So guys, we're going to close with that, because think about that. You're taking a rate quote, a pre-approval, and you're turning it into marketing. You're getting it out there, and it's getting pinged. It's driving decisions. It's driving referrals. Great strategy. So Kevin, super pumped to get to meet you.
Pleasure's all mine, Dave. Thank you.
No, but I appreciate everyone that invests in Mortgage Coach and pays us, but the people that have created over 1,000 total cost analysis, or over 100. It's like, guys, you guys are helping the Mortgage Coach mission. Our mission is to reshape how people get into mortgage debt. And we believe that every time someone gets into mortgage debt, they should have transparency of that, not transaction transparency. Of course, they have to have transaction transparency. Let's give them transparency over time, and then let's show them how to build wealth with real estate over time. So, dude, you are helping me do that. Thank you very much, my friend.
Bam. Appreciate it.
Bam. If you got value from this, give us a like. If you want to share this with someone, it will be in our YouTube channel. If you're watching this from our Facebook group and you have a question for my next interview with Kevin, put the question down below. Take care, brother. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. Take care.
Take care, everybody.